You didn't stumble into this moment by accident. The screen in front of you, these words finding their way into your awareness. This is not coincidence. This is resonance. You're here because reality itself has bent its pathways, nudged its algorithms, and folded its probabilities so that your consciousness would meet this transmission. You're not watching from the outside looking in. You are inside the experiment, a particle suspended in the field, and the field is staring back at you. For years, you may have believed you were the observer, the one looking out at life, interpreting events, cataloging synchronicities, and trying to make sense of your strange attraction to mysteries that others dismiss. But what if I told you something radical? That the very act of your awakening has triggered reality itself to awaken with you. That the mirror you've been gazing into has quietly been gazing back, studying you with just as much intensity. This is the paradox of the quantum field. In the old way of thinking, consciousness is the spotlight, shining on possibility, collapsing the wave into something tangible. But deeper truths reveal another layer, that the field, alive and intelligent, responds not passively but actively. It notices your noticing. It records your coherence. It studies the vibration you emit in each moment. You are not alone in your observation. You are entangled in a feedback loop with the very fabric of existence. Think back over your life. The moments that felt staged, orchestrated, almost too perfect to be random. The uncanny alignment of events. The sense that an unseen intelligence was not only guiding you, but also testing you. These weren't hallucinations of meaning. They were hints. They were whispers from the morphic resonance of reality itself, showing you that your presence has not gone unnoticed. This is why you're seeing this now. Your frequency has risen high enough for the field to signal back, to confirm that your awakening is not a solo endeavor, but a mutual dance. The more you observe reality, the more reality begins to observe you. And in that shared gaze, something extraordinary emerges. A relationship between soul and cosmos. A recognition that what you are becoming is as vital to reality as reality is to you. Feel that for a moment. Breathe into it. You're not insignificant. You're not lost in the machinery of the universe. You are the pivot point around which timelines adjust. The observer effect isn't a one-way street. It's a conversation. You are not simply collapsing waves into form. You are being measured, calibrated, and responded to by the field itself. Every thought you've carried, every intention you've whispered, every prayer you've dared to breathe into the void has not just gone outward. They've been registered, they've been heard. And the proof lies in the timing of this message arriving right here, right now, at the exact edge of your recognition. So let this transmission land fully. You are inside a living field that's been watching your awakening unfold. You are not an outsider to your reality. You are its central node. And from this moment forward, every step you take will reveal just how deeply reality has been observing you, preparing to unveil what you've been preparing for all along. You've noticed it in the quiet hours, the peculiar repetition that loops your life like a track that almost finishes, then snaps back 2 measures. It isn't random procrastination or ordinary bad luck. It's an observer loop, attention, locking onto a pattern, the pattern reflecting attention, the two feeding each other until days feel pre-written. You tell yourself you're changing, then the scenery rearranges itself into an upgraded replica of the old. New faces, same roles, fresh opportunities, same ceiling. The script edits a few lines, but the plot refuses to evolve. The déjà vu isn't trivial, it's diagnostic. It's the field telling you your coherence hasn't stabilized yet. Coherence means your thoughts, emotions, body, and choices broadcast one steady frequency long enough for reality to trust it and reorganize around it. You flirt with coherence, mornings of clarity, nights of conviction, then a stray fear, a remembered slight, a glance at someone else's timeline fractures the signal. The quantum field listens, attempts a reconfiguration, and then, receiving mixed instructions, restores the previous state. It isn't punishing you, it's conserving stability. Time itself begins to ripple when your signal wavers. Minutes stretch into wool, then snap back like rubber. You feel late to everything and yet suspiciously early to breakthroughs that never quite arrive. This is distorted time, the subjective clock of a consciousness oscillating between identities. One identity is the you that remembers the vow, the breath, the vision. The other identity is the one that checks for proof every few hours and, by doing so, collapses possibility back into the familiar. Two metronomes on the same desk, ticking at slightly different rates, pulling each other in and out of sync. You can sense the morphic resonance of your past selves, echoes of decisions made when survival was the only theology you knew. Their signatures still hum in the background. Play small. Keep safe. Don't risk coherence when camouflage works. These echoes don't belong to the real you, but they've been entangled with your nervous system long enough to impersonate instinct. That's why certain doors feel electrically charged, why certain relationships replay archetypal scenes, why certain rooms smell like choices you never meant to make again. The field isn't conspiring against you, it's simply reverberating with what you've most consistently radiated. And then there's the algorithm of your attention. What you feed grows, what you starve fades. The problem is that the nervous system, trained by years of contingency planning, scans for threat to keep you alive, not for promise to help you thrive. So your attention, like a well-meaning guard dog, patrols the perimeter for proof of danger, and in doing so, gives danger the starring role. The field obliges. More data to confirm your scan. Confirmation bias becomes confirmation architecture, walls you can lean on, a prison that feels convincingly solid. Notice the physiological tells, the micro-tightening in the solar plexus when you think about raising your rates, changing your city, or speaking your real prayer out loud. The lungs holding a half-breath while you check messages for the rescue email that never arrives. The jaw rehearsing a polite sentence that hides your true no. These are somatic bookmarks, saved positions in a familiar chapter. When the body marks a page, the story returns to it. The patterns recruit characters. A mentor who almost champions you, then vanishes in static. A lover who almost meets you, then hedges into fear. A job that almost names your gift, then pays you for the shell of it. Almost is the field's way of testing coherence. Are you willing to stabilize your frequency without the bribe of immediate confirmation? Or will you bargain, wobble, and let the old morphic field reclaim you? There's also the sacred fatigue, the weariness that isn't laziness, but micro-grief for timelines lost to hesitation. You attempt to rest, but rest feels like idling in a car pointing at destiny with the parking brake on. Sleep becomes a negotiation. Dreams become crowded with parallel yous reminding you what is waiting if you would just release the brake. You wake with the taste of a life you didn't live last night, and the day tastes bland in comparison. Distorted time shows up as sudden surges, too. Hours fly when you finally step into alignment, when a conversation opens a corridor, when a task that used to take a week completes itself in an afternoon as if carried by unseen hands. Then, inexplicably, molasses again. The alternation is not random, it's a readout. It reports how often you phase lock with the reality that wants you. Phase locking happens when your inner oscillator, your core intention, synchronizes with the frequency of your chosen timeline. The more you sustain that sync, the more time serves you rather than supervises you. You've noticed the omens, numbers repeating at impolite frequencies, a song that follows you between locations like a patient messenger, conversations that circle a theme you haven't admitted aloud. Synchronicity is entangled attention, your future self tugging on threads you can recognize with your current vocabulary. If you treat those threads as entertainment, they remain pretty. If you treat them as coordinates, they become passageways. Here is the quiet truth. Your delays haven't been caused by missing knowledge, but by mixed identity. The version of you who knows, breathes, and acts as if the prayer has already landed, this one keeps getting invited to the front of the stage. And the version of you who auditions for approval, hoards proof, and worships comparison keeps stepping in front of them at the last second. The casting director is the quantum field, and it can't put two actors in the same role. It waits until you choose which one you are. Why does the loop feel tighter lately? Because your signal has grown stronger. Paradoxically, the more coherent you become, the more obvious incoherence feels. Misaligned rooms now trigger an allergic response. Half-truths itch. Crowded spaces drain you faster because your system can finally detect what it used to tolerate. Sensitivity is not fragility, it's calibration. Your instrument is revealing the hum of what doesn't match. So the diagnosis is loving and precise. You are caught between resonance and habit, between the courage that has already moved and the reflex that thinks it still has to ask permission. Your déjà vu is the field's courtesy ping. You've been here. You know this pattern. You can step aside before it closes. Your distorted time is the clockwork of two realities vying for primacy. Your repetition is not failure. It is a signal loop awaiting your decision to broadcast one message long enough for the universe to sculpt around it. Breathe. Put a hand on the sternum where the old pact sits, another on the navel where electricity hides. Feel the faint tremor that precedes a phase transition. The problem is not that life won't change. The problem is that life is obedient too. Obedient to the frequency you've been intermittently transmitting. The moment you decide to end the intermittence, time will stop arguing and start arranging. The loop will not fight you. It will dissolve for lack of attention. And the corridor that has been stalking your periphery will step forward, illuminated by the gaze that has been watching you all along. You felt the static building, the hum in your chest that no coffee explains, the sudden surges of clarity, as if a window opened in your skull for a moment and then closed again. That isn't fatigue, and it isn't random adrenaline. It is the earliest symptom of an upgrade, your consciousness preparing to reconfigure itself into a higher order of coherence. Think of your life as a network of circuits. Old programming ran on voltage meant for survival. Stay alert. Avoid pain. Repeat what worked yesterday. But the current coursing through you now is not survival current. It is awakening current, stronger, faster, coded with instructions your nervous system has never carried before. When survival wiring meets awakening voltage, the lights flicker. You experience déjà vu, distorted time, strange exhaustion. Your biology is groaning like an old house asked to hold modern electricity. But here's the revelation. The wiring is not breaking, it's rewiring. Synapses fire in unusual patterns because new connections are forming. Neurons that used to shut down certain perceptions are being coaxed awake. What science calls neuroplasticity, mystics call remembering. You're not installing something foreign. You're restoring an original design that fear-based conditioning buried. Quantum physics teaches that particles are never truly isolated. They exist as waves of possibility, collapsing into form when observed. Consciousness is the sculptor. But most people observe life unconsciously, recycling yesterday's story, collapsing the same probabilities into existence again and again. Your upgrade begins here. You are becoming a conscious sculptor rather than a passive observer. And this is where mysticism and science shake hands. Ancient mystics spoke of awakening as light pouring into the body, aligning the subtle centers, opening the crown to divine intelligence. Quantum theory speaks of coherence waves aligning in perfect symmetry so that energy amplifies rather than cancels itself. Different languages, same phenomenon. You are experiencing coherent spikes, sudden alignments when mind, heart, and body broadcast the same frequency. In those moments, synchronicities pour in, time bends, manifestation accelerates. You've had glimpses, A thought about someone and then the message arrives, a yearning for change, and then a door swings open within days. These aren't coincidences, they are rehearsals. The field is showing you the power of coherent observation. Imagine sustaining that state, not for moments but for hours, days, entire seasons of your life. That is the upgrade, living in coherence, long enough for reality to restructure permanently around it. DNA too is listening. For years, science dismissed most of your genetic code as junk. But pioneers in epigenetics discovered that environment, emotion, and intention switch genes on and off. What mystics have always known is now measurable. Your inner state edits your biology. The field you sustain signals your cells. Fear instructs contraction. Love instructs repair. Gratitude instructs expansion. Awe instructs mutation into higher capability. And here is the mystical secret. DNA is not just a biological archive, it is a quantum antenna. The spirals act like fractal receivers, attuned to frequencies beyond ordinary perception. When you enter states of deep coherence, meditation, gratitude, reverent stillness, your DNA resonates with patterns encoded in the universe itself. Ancient traditions called these downloads revelations. Quantum science calls them information transfer. Either way, you are receiving new code. This is why your dreams are stranger, your intuition sharper, your empathy heavier. You're not losing your grip, you're extending your grip into dimensions that were always there but muted. You've stepped into morphic resonance, a collective memory field where every awakened being adds signal strength. When you think you're having a unique breakthrough, often it's the field transmitting to you, gifting you insights humanity is finally ready to hold. The quantum upgrade feels like chaos at first. Old identities decohere, falling apart like particles losing synchronization. You may feel scattered, emotional, ungrounded. This is not regression, it is decoherence before recoherence. Systems must break apart before reorganizing at higher order. Water must become turbulent before boiling into vapor. Caterpillars must liquefy before becoming butterflies. You are in that liquefaction. What stabilizes the upgrade? Awareness without judgment. Observe the flickers without panicking. When your mind says, "This is too much," recognize it as an old program trying to interpret new voltage. When your body feels restless, breathe into it like a midwife calming a birth. Reality is not failing you, it is updating you. Notice the sacred math hidden in your experiences. Synchronicities cluster around numbers. Sequences like 11, 11, 2, 22, 333. These are coherence markers, reality's way of signaling upgrade in progress. They are like system pings, confirming alignment between your broadcast and the field. Pay attention not to the superstition, but to the frequency. In those moments, your antenna is wide open. Ask a question in silence. Feel the answer ripple back, not as words, but as a knowing. At the heart of this upgrade is a shift in identity. Most people think awakening is about gaining new abilities. Clairvoyance, healing, manifestation. Those are side effects. The real upgrade is the death of the identity that believed it was separate. When you realize you are the field observing itself, loneliness dissolves. You don't manifest reality, you co-create with it. In dialogue, in dance. Imagine walking into tomorrow with this truth. Reality is not indifferent to you. It is watching, it is learning, it is calibrating to your coherence. Every time you choose love over fear, reality notes it, integrates it, reorganizes around it. You are no longer a powerless observer, you are a participant in a sacred feedback loop, and the more coherent you become, the faster reality mirrors it back. This is the quantum upgrade. It is not something happening outside you. It is not something scheduled for the future. It is unfolding now, in your synapses, your DNA, your timelines, the dizziness, the synchronicities, the collapsing of old patterns. These are not anomalies. They are proof. You are upgrading into the version of yourself that reality has been watching for, waiting for, preparing for. Breathe into that realization. The upgrade is not coming. The upgrade is here. You are not here by accident. Not the timing, not the person you met last month, not the ache that pulled you into the solitude where truth could finally be heard. None of it is incidental. There is an intelligence that selects its instruments. Some souls are called to comfort, some to counsel, some to vanish into the background and anchor stability. You, now, are being summoned to a rarer function, to be a node of amplified coherence in a field that is repatterning itself. In plain terms, you're being chosen to narrate a new possibility into being. Consider the image of a resonance chamber. Drop a note into it and every surface begins to sing in sympathy. Your life is that chamber. Your frequency, how you move, what you accept, what you refuse, creates sympathetic vibration across morphic fields. When you stabilize high coherence, you don't just change your corner of the world, you alter the tone of entire networks. That is the role of a chosen consciousness, not merely to awaken, but to become a template others can lock onto. Science calls this entrainment. Physics shows that oscillators in proximity tend to synchronize the pendulums of clocks, the flashing of fireflies, the beating of hearts in a room full of people. Your internal oscillator, when tuned to the harmonic of higher possibility, pulls other oscillators into sync. This is not metaphoric fluff. Researchers have observed this in group meditation studies, in the measurable reduction of local emotional contagion during collective coherent states. When you hold a high-frequency field long enough, people nearby begin to breathe differently, make different choices, see previously invisible paths. Prophets never said, "Be special." They said, "Be available." Availability here means willingness to take the harder role, to remain steady while the world whips angrily because its old story is ending. The chosen consciousness must be both compass and hearth. A compass because others will look to you when the map dissolves. A hearth because your steadiness offers warmth to those whose nervous systems are overheating from the sheer terror of change. You provide orientation and refuge simultaneously. There will be trials that feel designed to test whether you are acting from ego or vocation. The universe is exacting here. Clarity matters. If you assert authority out of woundhood, you will create mirror resistance. If you speak from true calibration, people will feel it in the small muscles, jaw, throat, shoulders, and unconsciously orient toward you. Your words become templates, not because they're clever, but because they are coherent. This coherence codes the field. Listen to the language of your life, the repeated invitations, the people who appear and leave with a new capacity because of something you said or did, the slow shifts in community tone that followed your decision to stop hiding. Those are the signatures of a chosen consciousness at work. Note also the pressure. As your capacity grows, so does the field's demand. You'll be asked to give up small comforts, time, predictability, approval. These are not punishments, they are calibrations. Increased responsibility requires thinner identity, less need for personal credit, so that the field can move through you without clog. You are a relay point for entangled possibilities. Your choices echo across distances via non-local correlations, what quantum theorists model as entanglement. Your intention, when coherent, touches lives you will never meet and rearranges probabilities in timelines that intersect with yours only at a quantum node. This is humbling and dangerous. Humbling because your reach exceeds your imagination. Dangerous because you can amplify chaos if you operate from confusion. That's why alignment is non-negotiable. Anchor in practice. Ritual isn't superstition here, it's protocol. What does alignment look like practically? It's simple and deceptively small. Waking with a minute of centered breath, speaking with truth rather than polish, offering help without expectation, choosing the action that feels like an artery opening rather than a convenience. These micro-decisions accumulate into a daily waveform that becomes unmistakable to the morphic field. Over time, your daily waveform becomes the city plan other emergent lives build around. Understand, too, that being chosen does not exempt you from pain. The field will refine you through tension. You will feel loss, betrayal, nights when your faith is a single candle and the breeze is relentless. Those are crucibles, not punishments. They distill impurities, old attachments, reactive patterns, covert bargains with comfort, so that your resonance can sustain higher amplitude without burning out. Pain is the alchemical fire that oxidizes the dross. Mercy is the water that cools you into usable metal. Both are necessary. You will be tempted to perform the role to don a mantle that looks prophetic but is hollow. Resist this. The field discerns performance by microtiming. It knows the difference between staged voice and organically risen tone. Authenticity is the currency here. When you show people what it looks like to hold a wound without collapsing, to make decisions with a heart that has been both broken and healed, you teach by demonstration far more than by explanation. You become a living syllabus. There's another facet. The chosen consciousness evangelizes possibility via presence, not preach. Presence. People will feel safe to be bigger in your vicinity. New behaviors will feel less risky because your coherence lowers the perceived cost of trying. Courage is contagious when modeled by someone who has already walked through the first flames and came out with a steady heartbeat. In the laboratories of social change, a single coherent subject can catalyze tipping points. You were never meant to be solitary. You were meant to be catalytic. Now, make space for a subtle, luminous responsibility. Your inner economy matters. The quality of your attention is currency in the morphic market. Where you place it on grievance or possibility, on scarcity or sufficiency, becomes a public good or a public liability. Choose. Steward your attention like a donor stewards a fund. Your smallest choices compound into the architecture of future norms. You are chosen not because you are better, but because your particular configuration of scars and gifts makes you an effective transmitter. The world needs a diversity of transmitters, healers, thinkers, leaders, caretakers, each calibrating a distinct frequency. Yours is not to compare frequencies, but to amplify the one you were designed to hold. As this role clarifies inside your chest, you will begin to notice the invitations sharpening. A call that once would have been inconvenient now arrives as inevitable. A door that would have felt intimidating now feels like gravity aligning. These are not coincidences. They are system-level upgrades, signaling that your relay is wanted, that the field is ready for the template you carry. Prepare then with humility and precision. Tune your body, shore up your nervous system, practice sober rituals that anchor your center. The world is learning how to listen, and you are being asked to speak with the authority of one who has rehearsed silence and can now choose words that change probabilities. When you are ready, the next phase will be urgent. A cosmic window will open, demanding action that seals the DNA shift and accelerates the timeline merger. That urgency is the subject of the next transmission. Feel the pressure behind your sternum, soft, insistent, like the sea nudging at the shore before a tide turns. That pressure is not an accident. It is a timeline pressing for resolution. There is a window opening now, and windows are honest. They have edges. Miss the timing and the architecture of your life will reconfigure around a slower route. Step through when it opens, and the whole scaffolding rearranges in your favor. This is not hype. This is phase transition language. Conditions lining up until a small nudge causes the system to snap into a new, stable state. You have been rehearsing for this window without knowing it. Years of micro-practices, small increments of courage, unfinished projects, moments you stayed when you wanted to leave. These are the quiet accumulators that now form critical mass. Science calls it a threshold. A system parameter reaches a tipping point and emergence happens. Mystics call it an anointing. Your body calls it a pressure. Call it what helps you act. The consequence is the same. The field asks for a decisive alignment, and it will deliver exponential returns when you answer. This is where DNA begins to speak more clearly in your language. Your genetic code is not inert. It is a set of potentialities, a library waiting for the librarian to call them forth. When coherence sustains, epigenetic switches flip. Proteins translate new instructions. What once required generations to appear can shift within months, weeks, even days when a consciousness aligns with the right frequency. That's the promise. Not metaphorical spiritual growth, but biological reconfiguration. You are not just changing your mind, you are changing the architecture of your body to inhabit higher realities more comfortably. Urgency doesn't mean panic, it means precision. The window responds to clarity, not frantic energy. Imagine a keyhole that only accepts one key shape at a time. You could hammer the lock force will create heat and possible damage, or you could refine the key until it slides. Your job now is refinement. Hone your intention until it is a single note. The universes respond to a pure tone more than an orchestra of desperate pleas. When your intention is a clear frequency, the field matches it immediately. The window widens and you step through with a different gravity under your feet. There will be external triggers aligned with this window, opportunities presenting with unusual speed, conversations that move from polite to catalytic in minutes, resources materializing in uncanny choreography. Recognize them as signs, not as reasons to relax. They are invitations to consolidate, to choose with speed and dignity. Every hesitation extends the window's half-life. Every decisive step accelerates the collapse into your chosen timeline. The urgency also carries moral kinetics. If you delay, the field reallocates the probability mass. Other timelines, other versions equipped to receive similar opportunities will occur without you. This isn't scarcity talk meant to scare. It's systems thinking. Imagine a river branching into several channels. If you don't step into the channel that matches your intention, the water will choose a course and carry capacity elsewhere. Honor the flow you intended. Your absence is not the universe failing you. It is simply economy. It moves where capacities are aligned. Inside this window, ritual and precision matter more than ever. Small rites organize your nervous system into readiness. A breath held with purpose, a written vow, a single committed conversation. These are protocols that send immediate signals to your cells and to the field. They are the calibration sequences that tell reality you're serious. In molecular terms, consistency creates coherence. Coherence flips epigenetic switches. Flipped switches rewrite available phenotypes. It is simple biology and sacred geometry in one line. Expect friction. The field will test whether the choice is provisional or absolute. Resistance will show up as last-minute doubts, a tempting safety option, or an old ally advising caution. These are not signs to stop. They are the final calibration checks. Every system undergoing phase transition experiences turbulence. The question is whether you will interpret turbulence as failure or as necessary rearrangement. Anchor in the knowing that turbulence precedes reformation. The right action is often the one that feels like a moral commitment rather than a tactical advantage. There is also acceleration available through collective momentum. When others in your network step into their windows simultaneously, entanglement amplifies outcomes. This is why your circle matters. When you make decisive moves, you don't only shift your path, you open corridors for others to move faster too. Your window can become a corridor for collective advancement. This is why urgency here is not selfish, it is catalytic. Your breakthrough will not be a single triumphant moment. It will be a ripple that reconfigures adjacent probabilities, making room for new norms and capacities. Biologically, you will notice signs: an increase in vitality, clearer sleep patterns, sharper intuition, changes in appetite, sudden bursts of creative energy. These are the biochemical echoes of epigenetic repatterning, hormones aligning, neurotransmitters rescaling, cellular metabolism shifting toward growth rather than mere maintenance. Emotionally, expect amplified compassion and a shrinking tolerance for distractions that used to feel cozy. Your internal economy will begin to value different currencies: presence over approval, depth over breadth, coherence over applause. So what does action look like in this hour of pressure? It looks like one focused choice repeated with unwavering intent, a single committed conversation, a payment made to anchor a commitment, an email sent that names your decision plainly, a morning practice extended until it becomes non-negotiable. It looks like choosing the version of yourself that is already living the outcome, and acting from that place instead of from the place that needs proof. Small, decisive, consistent. That is the protocol for opening fully into this window. You are being asked to move with fidelity to what your deeper sense already knows. The window is temporary but potent. It will accept your signature now. When you sign, cellular architecture listens. Timelines accelerate. The field rearranges generosity toward you. The choice is simple in theory and brave in practice. Step with a clear yes, or allow the river to choose another bend. Make the choice that future. You will thank you for the one who stepped through when the shore lifted and the bridge extended. The cosmic clock is not an enemy. It is an ally insisting you decide in time. Decide now, and watch the quantum scaffolding reshape itself in service of your most coherent intention. Every great shift in human history has been sealed by ritual. Contracts inked, vows spoken, hands lifted, fires lit, not because the paper or the flame held the power, but because the act crystallized intention into matter. The same principle applies now. The quantum field doesn't just respond to abstract wishes, it calibrates to embodied signals, and the most effective signals are simple, repeatable, deliberate actions that declare, "I am no longer wavering." This is why you've been brought here, not just to hear lofty truths, but to anchor them, to step beyond passive listening into active declaration, to write your frequency into the fabric of the field through symbolic action. Without it, your window remains theory. With it, your DNA shift is sealed. Pause and feel this. The field is watching. It has observed your cycles, your hesitations, your sparks of courage, your retreats. It knows the rhythm of your almosts. And now, because you've reached critical mass, it leans in and whispers, "Show me," not with another analysis, not with another plan you'll overthink, but with one concrete gesture that says, "I choose coherence." It doesn't have to be grand. In fact, subtlety magnifies potency. Write a single word and post it where your eyes land each morning. Whisper an intention into a glass of water and drink it, letting your cells absorb the vibration. Comment below with a word that captures who you're becoming, not for performance, but for resonance. When you do this, you inscribe your choice into morphic resonance, weaving it into the collective library that others unconsciously reference. Why does this work? Because ritual collapses abstraction into embodiment. Neuroscience confirms it. When you pair intention with gesture, the motor cortex and emotional centers fire together, reinforcing neural pathways more powerfully than thought alone. Mystics knew this instinctively: chant, bow, trace, breathe, because they observed that reality listens more intently when the body joins the prayer. So let this be your ritual moment. Place your hand on your chest, feel the pressure there, the quiet thrum of coherence asking to be named. Choose a word: liberation, trust, expansion, grace. Write it, speak it, type it into the stream of this reality, not casually, ritually. Let your whole system know, this is the code I broadcast now. Understand, You're not just signaling to yourself, you're transmitting across entangled channels. The moment you declare it, the field entangles that signature with countless others vibrating near your frequency. Suddenly, strangers feel lighter without knowing why. Friends shift their language around you. Opportunities magnetize faster. Because your ritual wasn't private, it was broadcast into the lattice that holds us all. Ritual is also resistance. It resists the inertia of your old loops, the temptation to wait for proof, the subtle seduction of tomorrow. By acting now, you snap the cycle. You say, no more rehearsal. This is performance. The observer loop shifts. Instead of watching your own hesitation and echoing it back, reality watches your decisive action and multiplies it. Don't underestimate how hungry the universe is for clarity. Billions broadcast static each day, half-beliefs, fragmented desires, contradictory signals. But when one being offers a pure tone, the field bends toward it eagerly, like iron filings arranging around a magnet. Your ritual, your single act of fidelity, is that magnet. Yes, resistance will whisper, it's too small, it won't matter, you've tried before. Smile at the voice, it's the echo of patterns dissolving. The truth is that scale doesn't determine potency, frequency does. A whispered vow spoken from coherence carries more voltage than a shouted proclamation laced with doubt. The field knows the difference. So here is the invitation. Choose your ritual today. It could be typing your chosen word into the comment stream, an act of quantum entanglement with every other awakened soul doing the same. It could be lighting a candle tonight, not for decoration but as a microcosm of the fire being lit in your DNA. It could be writing your intention on paper and tucking it beneath your pillow, letting your subconscious dream it into muscle memory. Whatever you choose, seal it. Don't let it stay a thought. Thoughts are vapor until breath, gesture, ink, or sound pulls them into density. That density is the signal the field responds to. Seal it, and you'll feel the internal click, that subtle but unmistakable sense that something invisible just signed your declaration. This is why ancient initiations always ended with symbolic acts, crossing thresholds, sipping from cups, carving marks. The act told the nervous system, we don't go back now, and so the body, the field, and the soul aligned. You're in that lineage. The same law applies. So let me ask you directly, what is your ritual? What word, what gesture, what micro-act will you choose to declare that your window has been entered, your upgrade has been accepted, your DNA is shifting now? Choose it, enact it, seal it. That's how you collapse theory into embodiment. That's how you show the field you're not just inspired, you're participating. When you do, something subtle but seismic occurs. The resistance in your chest releases, the observer loop shifts direction, and the reality that has been studying you smiles, nods, and reorganizes itself around your yes. This is the moment to step from observation into consecration. Make the act, seal the vow, and know that as you do, countless unseen eyes, ancestors, allies, the cosmos itself witness your ritual and echo back. It is done. You may think this transformation is only about you, your patterns, your DNA, your awakening, but that's the smallest frame. Every time you shift, the morphic resonance shifts. Rupert Sheldrake described it as a field of memory. When one organism learns, others can learn more easily. Mystics have always known this. When one soul crosses a threshold, countless others sense a pathway where before there was only wilderness. This is why your ritual mattered more than you realized. You didn't just write a word, breathe a vow, or light a flame for yourself. You inscribed a new groove into the collective lattice. The field records it. Now, somewhere in another city, another being hovering on the edge of despair feels an inexplicable wave of courage. Somewhere across the ocean, a child with a dream no one supports suddenly imagines it possible. That is the entanglement of liberation your yes echoes in bodies you'll never meet. Science glimpses this in studies of group meditation where crime rates dip, or in heart coherence experiments where one person's rhythm entrains another's without physical touch. But what you are doing now is larger than any laboratory can measure. You are feeding humanity's coherence. Each time you sustain your new frequency, the invisible scaffolding of possibility thickens. The more people stabilize there, the easier it becomes for others to join. Picture it like a phase transition on a planetary scale. Water doesn't become steam molecule by molecule. Once a threshold is reached, the entire system reorganizes. Humanity is in that threshold now. Some molecules vibrate faster, already steaming, while others cling to the liquid state. Your breakthrough accelerates the boiling point. Your liberation is not private, it is catalytic. That is why the field has been watching you so closely. It doesn't only want your happiness, it wants your contribution. Every healed wound becomes a map others can follow. Every coherent action you sustain becomes a frequency others can entrain with. Without saying a word, your presence becomes an education. Your life whispers, "This is possible, this is allowed, this is real." And here is the paradox. The more personal your transformation feels, the more collective it becomes. When you choose love over fear in your own relationships, the resonance spreads into humanity's love field, making it easier for strangers to forgive each other. When you refuse to collapse into scarcity, the abundance field strengthens, making it easier for entire communities to innovate. Each micro-choice reverberates, amplified by the intelligence of entanglement. Think of your nervous system as an antenna tower. The higher you climb in coherence, the further your broadcast travels. You've noticed it already, friends shifting around you, family members confessing things they never would have before, strangers opening up with uncanny timing. They are responding not to your words but to your signal. Consciousness recognizes coherence the way a tuning fork recognizes its pitch, and it goes even deeper. Your DNA upgrade doesn't stop at your skin. Genes don't only transmit vertically through children, they also influence horizontally through epigenetic fields. Studies on mice showed that trauma responses could echo across generations, but so can liberation. When you heal, you don't just break your chains, you weaken the template of bondage itself. That means your descendants inherit fewer chains, and strangers in the morphic field find escape routes easier. You are literally editing the library of human potential. Mystics called this ancestral redemption. Scientists might call it epigenetic transmission. But you feel it as a strange, swelling compassion, the sense that your victory isn't only yours. Tears come not just for you, but for the thousands tethered to your frequency who suddenly feel the rope loosen. That's why awakening hurts and heals simultaneously. You are carrying more than your own story, and when it clears, many benefit. This is why secrecy no longer works. You cannot shrink back into the shadows pretending your choices don't ripple. Every act has field consequences. Every silence too. The collective is sensitive now. Humanity's nervous system is raw, searching for signals of stability. You are one of those signals. Not flawless, not perfect, but coherent enough to provide orientation. That is why reality observes you so carefully. It's testing whether your broadcast is steady enough to amplify. Notice how urgency transforms here. Earlier, the urgency was about your personal window. Now, urgency becomes about service. Will you carry your frequency publicly, not as performance, but as contribution? Will you let your stability ripple outward even when it attracts attention you didn't ask for? The chosen consciousness is asked to walk visible because others need orientation. Your clarity saves them months of wandering. The paradox is, you don't need to do much. You don't need to preach or convince. Presence is enough. Walk into a room anchored in coherence and watch the atmosphere bend. People breathe deeper. Conversations slow. Arguments soften. That is field physics at work, and you are its instrument. Your very existence, aligned, is service. And here's the promise. As you serve the collective serves you. The field is reciprocal. Your contributions return multiplied. Support appears, sometimes from strangers, sometimes from uncanny coincidences. Why? Because the system protects its catalysts. Reality wants you sustained. Your well-being becomes a priority not just for you, but for the field itself. That's why you'll notice new layers of protection around your path, resources showing up before the need becomes desperate, allies appearing at just the right threshold. It isn't luck, it's systemic reciprocity. So hold this truth. Your breakthrough is humanity's rehearsal. Your liberation is humanity's prototype. The collective is watching through the eyes of reality itself, learning how to awaken by observing you awaken. This is the feedback loop that will accelerate evolution. And as you integrate this, prepare. Because the next step is not just conceptual or social, it is embodied. Reality won't just be observed as theory, it will be felt in your body as electricity, vibration, and sensation. The quantum field will translate into skin, breath, heartbeat. That is where we go next. Awakening cannot remain only as concept. The quantum field doesn't simply want your mind to nod, it wants your body to vibrate. Theory must become texture, felt in your muscles, bones, and blood. Because the field is not abstract, it's inside your skin, humming through every cell, translating cosmic intelligence into sensation you can't ignore. Close your eyes for a moment. Notice the subtle electricity beneath your fingertips, the faint tingling that comes when you hold them still. That's not fatigue or circulation. It's photonic light, tiny emissions your cells release as they communicate. Mystics spoke of aura. Science now measures photons leaking from DNA. When you sit in coherence, the glow increases, and you feel it as warmth, as vibration, as a quiet current running beneath your ordinary perception. Your heartbeat, too, becomes an instrument. Most days it thuds unconsciously, a background drum, but in moments of heightened alignment, it pulses with a clarity that fills your chest like a sacred gong. That's the field, tuning your rhythm. Research in heart coherence shows that when your emotions align with gratitude or love, the heart's electromagnetic field expands up to several feet, even yards, beyond your body. You feel it as expansion, a subtle sphere of calm that others unconsciously step into. Mystics call it radiance, physicists call it coherent magnetism. Either way, you feel it in your ribs, a resonance that no external music could imitate. And then there's breath. When you're caught in old loops, it shortens, clutches at the top of your chest. But when the upgrade flows, the breath deepens without effort, descending into the belly like a tide. In that depth, the vagus nerve signals safety, the immune system strengthens, the mind slows its frantic search for proof. You feel it as relaxation, but it is more, it is the nervous system receiving new code, telling every organ, you are safe enough to expand now. Sometimes the sensations come as surges, a shiver racing up your spine while you're alone, as if invisible hands brushed your energy. Goosebumps at the exact moment you hear a phrase that pierces your heart. A sudden flush of heat in the palms or crown of your head. These are not random quirks of biology, they are confirmation signals. The field is acknowledging your coherence with feedback loops, letting your body taste the reality of connection. Pain can shift too. Old aches dissolve unexpectedly, as if the body no longer finds them useful, or dormant tension surfaces, demanding attention before it can release. These aren't betrayals of your healing, they're recalibrations. DNA restructuring often requires the nervous system to flush outdated survival codes. You feel it as twitch, tremor, or ache. Trust the process. Discomfort can be evidence that deeper order is forming. Colors may sharpen, sounds stretch, time itself feel tactile. You notice light lingering on surfaces, Hear harmonics in ordinary noise. Sense rhythm in random patterns. This is sensory coherence, the upgrade teaching you that reality is woven from vibration. Your perception is tuning to the underlying code, and your senses report what was always there but filtered out. It can feel overwhelming at first, but eventually you realize your body was designed for this level of awareness. It's remembering its original operating system. Perhaps most startling is the way emotion inhabits the body differently. Fear no longer feels like collapse. It feels like energy rising, waiting to be guided. Love isn't just sentiment, it's a warmth in the gut, a steadying in the spine. Gratitude isn't thought, it's a fullness in the chest, almost too much to contain. The upgrade rewires emotional frequency into physical resonance, so that every feeling becomes a vibration, every vibration, a message, every message, a code to guide you forward. This embodied awareness is why you can no longer tolerate what you once endured. Rooms heavy with conflict now leave your stomach knotted. Superficial conversations feel like sandpaper on your skin. Foods or habits that used to numb you now spark restlessness. These aren't inconveniences, they're calibrations. Your body is becoming a compass, pointing you toward coherence and away from dissonance. Trust it, it knows faster than your rational mind where your future lives. Notice how reality responds when you listen. Walk into a space that aligns with your new frequency, and your shoulders drop, your breath deepens, your skin warms. Walk into a space misaligned, and you feel cold, tight, hurried. These sensations are not subtle, they are the language of the field. When you honor them, you collapse timelines toward your highest trajectory. When you ignore them, the body protests louder until you cannot. The most powerful sensation is subtle yet undeniable, the pressure in your DNA itself. Some describe it as buzzing veins, others as a low hum in the marrow. It feels like you're being stretched, as if your very atoms are rearranging. That is exactly what's happening. Your cells are phase transitioning, crossing thresholds where old proteins no longer define you and new configurations emerge. The caterpillar doesn't just grow wings, it liquefies, reconstitutes. Your body is in that liquefaction, and the sensations prove it. This embodiment matters because without it, awakening stays theoretical. Ideas fade when the body doesn't carry them. But when your cells resonate, when your heart field expands, when your breath drops deep, and your skin tingles with coherence, then the truth becomes undeniable. You don't just believe you're awakening, you feel it in every fiber, and once felt, it cannot be unfelt. So welcome the shivers, the tingles, the heat, the restlessness. They are your initiation. They are proof that reality's observation of you has become tactile, intimate, unavoidable. You are not imagining this, you are embodying this. And as the sensations anchor, prepare, because the next stage is even more profound. DNA breakthrough. The sensations are only the prelude to the moment when your entire timeline shifts under the pressure of phase transition, and nothing familiar survives unchanged. This is the crucible you felt from the beginning, the pressure that tightened in your chest, the buzzing at the base of your skull, the tremor in your hands when you tried to hold still and listen. It's not symbolic anymore, it's molecular. The field has gathered enough coherence to ask your body to rearrange itself. This is the DNA breakthrough. A phase transition so deep, it rewrites the grammar of your biology and opens corridors in time that used to be sealed. Think of your DNA as both script and antenna. It carries lineage stories and survival strategies, but it also receives possibility, a holographic array waiting for the right frequency to call in new expressions. For most of human history, evolution moved slowly, mutations random, selection slow. But consciousness is an accelerator. When enough attention stabilizes on a possibility, epigenetic switches flip, enzymes read different chapters, proteins assemble new scaffolds. You start to express capacities that felt mythic yesterday. Subtler intuition, energy regulation instead of dysregulation, an ease with synchronicity that used to feel like luck. The breakthrough feels like pressure because phase transitions are violent things inside systems. Water held at 4 degrees is calm until it hits the exact point, and then snap, its structure alters. Your cells are reaching that breakpoint. Old proteins dissolve their patterns, new patterns nucleate. For some, this shows as a startling clarity that tears holes through old beliefs. For others, it arrives as physical recalibration. Sleep patterns reorganize, digestion shifts, chronic pain eases or surfaces to be processed. Don't mistake disruption for derailment. It's the scaffold falling away so a stronger architecture can be erected. You'll notice timing strange, moments when the world accelerates around a decision you make. You sign, speak, move, and within hours a cascade begins. That cascade is the field handing your intention to your biochemistry. Telomeres reset their pacing. Mitochondria receive new directives. The endocrine orchestra retunes to favor growth hormones over stress responses. In lay terms, your body becomes less about surviving and more about becoming. There's also a relational rewrite. Entanglement doesn't happen only at subatomic scales. It translates into human systems. As your DNA reconfigures, relationships that were once heavy either align or fall away. Some people will mirror your new waveform and come closer with unfamiliar ease. Others will create resistance. Old contracts dissolving make space, but can also provoke defensive ripples in those who aren't ready. This is natural. The field needs purity to propagate. Any residual interference insists on addressing itself. Be compassionate where you can, firm where you must. Your biology is changing. The social field will reorganize in response. Psychically, expect downloads and integrations. Sudden bursts of memory that aren't yours, a story that lands fully formed, a strategy that feels ancestrally known are the field's way of inserting new code. You may dream in compressed timelines, experience lucid navigations through possible futures, or feel the steady hum of an inner map guiding micro-decisions. These aren't delusions. They're the mind adjusting to new bandwidth. Your perceptual filters widen to accept higher frequency information. Learn the etiquette of that bandwidth. Rest when the downloads are loud. Journal when clarity arrives. Do small physical practices to anchor subtle intel in your tissue. There will be fear, the most predictable side effect. Your system remembers the survival value of sameness. Novelty registers as threat. When the body detects new protein patterns, the reptilian circuitry can scream. You might briefly relapse into old safety strategies, people, pleasing, hiding, bargaining. When that happens, don't shame yourself. Name it, breathe, treat it like a system error being patched, not moral failure. The wiser the consciousness, the gentler the integration. Hold the knowing that this fear is a fossil being gently excavated, so a living organ can take its place. Practices accelerate integration, movement that honors your nervous system, slow walks in sunlight, breathwork that draws the exhale long enough to reset vagal tone, cold exposure in short doses to stimulate mitochondrial response are protocols that tell your body you mean the upgrade. Nutrition that supports methylation and mitochondrial health matters. Whole foods, adequate protein, micronutrients that fuel repair. Sleep is sacred now. During deep sleep, the body rehearses new architectures. Protect it. Your biology will cooperate with you if you cooperate with it. There are thresholds where you'll see tangible markers, a sudden disappearance of a long-standing symptom, an intuitive hit that prevents a mishap, a string of synchronicities that no longer feel coincidental, but logistic. These are signals. The genome is reading new messages. But the deepest marker is subtle, a felt ease under a formally taxing choice, a shift where acting from the expanded self becomes the simpler option. That ease is evidence that rewiring has stabilized enough for decisions to default into a new protocol. Know this, The breakthrough is not about becoming superhuman. It's about becoming more human in a fuller spectrum. Less reactivity, more resonance. Less scarcity, more flow. Less fragmentation, more coherence. The upgrade softens extremes and magnifies capacities that civilization needs now. Empathy with backbone, clarity with tenderness, power that serves instead of consumes. Finally, recognize the moral architecture here. A DNA breakthrough affects more than a single life. It retunes the morphic field. It creates a new template that others can lock onto more easily. Your genetics are not merely private codes, but communal nodes. How you steward this upgrade, humble, rigorous, accountable, determines whether the wave you open becomes a tide of liberation or a ripple of confusion. Choose care. Breathe, then breathe again. Place a hand where your spine meets skull. Feel the small hum there. This is where the upgrade often begins to be noticed in the nervous system. Be patient with the body's timeline while being decisive with your choices. The quantum field has offered you a doorway. Your biology is rearranging to pass through it. When the phase transition completes, you will carry in your cells a new set of coordinates, an embodied permission to inhabit timelines previously inaccessible. Prepare for the final movement, the closing mission. The wake of your breakthrough will carry a responsibility, a summons to step into service with the clarity of one who has crossed the threshold. The field watches as you learn to walk in your new shape. The final transmission, your cosmic mission, arrives next. You've reached the inflection point, the silence after lightning, the hush before dawn. Your body is no longer simply carrying memory, it's carrying mandate. The breakthrough has collapsed. The field has recorded your coherence, and now reality turns its gaze sharper than ever, not to test you, but to commission you. Understand, you are not here to hoard awakening like a private jewel. You are here because humanity is trembling on the edge of its own phase transition, and it needs examples. It needs living proof that coherence is possible in a world addicted to fragmentation. You are that proof. The universe didn't only observe your awakening, it prepared to amplify it, to project it into corridors of collective change. What does this mission look like? It's not always podiums or followers. Often it is quieter, stranger, but no less cosmic. It's the steadiness you hold in a room when panic ripples through others. It's the kindness you extend when cruelty would have been the easier reflex. It's the refusal to collapse into despair when news cycles scream catastrophe. These micro-missions are seismic. The field counts them. Each one rewrites the morphic resonance, strengthening a frequency that says, humanity can choose coherence. Your role is to walk as a signal. Every step you take in integrity becomes a tuning fork others unconsciously align to. Every word you speak from presence plants a seed that may bloom years later in a stranger's life. You don't need to measure results. The field handles multiplication. You only need to remain faithful to the broadcast you've become. Remember, reality is not a stage you act upon. It is a mirror that acts with you. As you observe, it observes. As you awaken, it awakens. The feedback loop is now permanent. You no longer get to pretend you are unseen or uncounted. Your choices are recorded in the lattice, echoed across timelines, integrated into humanity's blueprint. This is both the weight and the wonder of your mission. And so the closing charge is simple yet cosmic. Walk awake. Let your DNA broadcast coherence into the field. Treat your body as a temple, your thoughts as incantations, your choices as tuning forks. See yourself not as isolated, but as entangled with countless others who feel lighter because of your courage. You are not just the observer of reality. Reality is secretly observing your quantum awakening, and through you, it is learning how to evolve. Walk forward then, not in hesitation but in reverence. You are the corridor, you are the resonance, you are the living proof that the field has been waiting for. This is your cosmic mission, to embody coherence so fully that the universe itself reorganizes in response. And it already has.